It's okay to humble brag a little bit. Do you think you're the best running back of all time?
I mean,
Let's talk about the Lions. The last couple years, they've had really good seasons, broke the playoff win drought. Then they had a 15-win season. But what will it take for the Lions to get over the hump and finally win that franchise's first Super Bowl?
I think I think it takes kind of, some of the things that we've experienced, right? I
Okay.
mean, the experience we had in the experience we had in 2023 against the Niners was a learning experience. And even this year, winning home field advantage and losing to a young Commanders team, hopefully that was a learning experience. And so all those things I think can help a team understand what it takes. When you get into playoff football, then it's a different monster.
Yeah.
A lot of last season to me almost seemed easy, right? It just seemed easy. Like, you look at some of the games they won. We had games where we had, 3, 4 interceptions and still won the game. Those aren't things that normally happen. And so I just think that sometimes it just takes kind of getting there, getting close, and not quite getting there where you understand, if you have the good fortune of being in that situation again, then you realize that, you can't, there's no margin for error, or very
Mhm.
little margin for error. And so, but, to answer your question, I also think that this team, over the last few years, every year they've shown improvement in something. And I think we still have a great nucleus. We still got Coach Campbell, and we're still one of the top teams in the NFC.
You mentioned Coach Campbell and even GM Brad Holmes. What are your? They have kind of rebuilt the Lions. What are your thoughts of the job that they've done in their time in Detroit?
Oh yeah, what they've done, what Coach Campbell has done, and what Brad Holmes has done has been, just miraculous. Honestly, like, and it really goes back to every decision that they've made, personnel wise, how they treat the players. Coach Campbell's just in game philosophy. He's really changed the story about the Lions. And you see how he does things like going forward on fourth down, giving his team so many more opportunities. So much of everything that's happened can be attributed to what they've done in their philosophy, and that's why I feel confident in going forward that they have the ingredient, and they understand the kind of players they're looking for. They've already done a great job of picking in the draft and in free agency. And so I'm excited to see what we do next season. But to answer your question, yeah, what Coach Campbell and what Brad Holmes has done has really just turned everything around for Lions fans. It was just a few short years ago where no one took us serious, and now you're looking at 2 deep playoff runs and really being one of the teams in the NFC, who people consider to be one of the better teams, that side of the bracket. And so that's really all you can ask for.
Mm-hmm. So you're obviously the best Lions running back of all time. The Lions currently have a two-headed monster in the backfield in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm interested in your assessment of those two running backs.
I mean, I think it's the best dual combo in the NFL. You look at one, David Montgomery. He's been a great running back in the NFL for many years, and he just added to that. Coming over from the Bears and putting him with this Lions offensive line. And then you see what Jahmyr Gibbs was able to do last season. Really, from the time from the last 2 years that he's been here. But I feel like last year was more of a breakout season for him, in eclipsing 1,000 yards and just the type of exciting, dynamic plays that he's able to make, with his speed and his vision, and so yeah, they're the best duo in the NFL, and there's no reason to believe that that's going to change anytime soon. And when you would think that if a Super Bowl is in our future, in the near future, then you would think that those two guys would be a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of best, I talked to multiple running backs during the course of the week at Super Bowl 59, including Saquon Barkley, and they all said you were the best running back of all time. How do you feel about that?
No, it's a great honor. I'm glad that the younger generation, these guys who I guess there's still some guys who may have seen, I guess with YouTube and with video games and all with all this kind of stuff, then then I have them to thank. But no, it's an awesome kind of tribute, and coming from someone from me who I've always been a fan of running backs, and I'm a fan of a lot of the running backs of today, like Saquon or Derrick Henry. I mentioned David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Brandon Jacobs and the list goes on. So yeah, that's a great tribute for me and to what I try to do and how I try to play the game.
It's okay to humble brag a little bit. Do you think you're the best running back of all time? Um,
I mean, no, I would never say that. There were so many great players that I admired, who had an impact on me. And I think about guys like Jim Brown. Think about guys like Walter Payton. I think about guys like Emmitt Smith, who's the all-time leading rusher. Gale Sayers, and I mean the list goes on and on and on. I mean I've always loved running backs. And to me it's just pretty cool to be in that conversation. And so I would never just automatically put myself above so many great players. But it's great to be in that conversation.
just a couple more for you. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. So over the last couple years, I mean, pretty last maybe 10 years, the running back position has been kind of devalued. But then last year with, Derrick Henry and Saquon, the position kind of got a resurgence. What do you think about the state of the running back position in today's NFL?
Oh yeah, I think that last year kind of proved a lot of points that certainly brought the running back position, brought it back, kind of put it more at the forefront. I guess returned it to the forefront. And what Saquon was able to do was just remarkable. I mean, it was clear that he was one of the best players in the game, whether offense or defense, whether quarterback or not, whatever position you play. And so, I think I've always thought that, great players, regardless of what position they play, will show their value, and that's exactly what Saquon did. And that's exactly what Derrick has done on his whole career. So we talked about the running backs we have here in Detroit, how essential they are. And you can point to others around the league who are extremely important to their teams. Let's just take, for example, Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's a great player. It's not because of him that the Saints aren't very good, but that's just an example. But my point is there's a lot of running backs in this game who are very meaningful, and are great players. And if they're put in a great situation, then they'll thrive. And so I'm happy to see it as a former running back and just as a fan of the game. Excuse me, as a fan of the game. And hopefully there's more of that to come.
Are there any running backs today that remind you of yourself?
I think that, obviously Saquon has that shiftiness and that vision, and that suddenness about his cuts. And I think David Montgomery and Jahmyr, have some of those attributes. And then, Josh Jacobs, you see it in his game. I certainly see some comparisons of today's running backs with some of the things that I did.
Mm-hmm. So, lastly, Emmitt Smith holds the NFL's all-time rushing record. Do you think that record will ever be broken? I mean, he played a long time in the NFL. It's kind of a longevity record. That record just seems untouchable. Do you think there's a running back that can ever break that?
I think so. I think that because of just in today's world, athletes are they know more about taking care of their bodies, even though it is a more passing oriented league. Then I think that it's not impossible or out of the realm of possibility for a Derrick Henry or a Saquon or maybe someone else to break the record. I think I don't think it was probably easier, if that's the right word to use, maybe in previous generations where it was more run oriented. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I do think that there's less wear and tear on your body on an everyday basis for a lot of players, and because of understanding how to take, I think players are much more knowledgeable about taking care of their bodies and extending their careers and things like that. So I wouldn't put it past one of these guys that are playing in today's world.